Now, I don't want to give you the impression that relative humidity is totally useless. In fact, indoors where you use this machine, the hygrometer, it does give you a good idea of how humid or dry your indoor conditions are. Because if it gets too dry, especially in the wintertime, that can create some health problems. So let's take a closer look at that. As I've discussed before, we can mathematically figure out the relative humidity by comparing the vapor pressure to the saturation vapor pressure. And if I give you some of these numbers, we can do a couple examples where you can see how this would negatively affect you in the wintertime. Let's create a scene where your house is in this nice little wooded area full of snow. And let's say the temperature outside is 20 degrees. At 20 degrees, the saturation vapor pressure is 5 millibars. That's a fixed number based on that graph that we looked at earlier. And don't concern yourself with the term millibars. We haven't really gone over that. Just understand that at 20 degrees, the maximum amount of push from the water is 5 millibars. Inside your house, let's say you keep it at 70 degrees. At that temperature, the saturation vapor pressure is 25 millibars. Now let's go back outside and say we've got maximum humidity. So the vapor pressure is 5 millibars. That means, using our formula, 5 millibars divided by 5 millibars, the vapor pressure, divided by the saturation vapor pressure, times 100, we're at 100% relative humidity. How most heating systems work is they pull air in from the outside. So we're going to take that 5 millibar air and bring it inside. So as we do that, the air inside is now at 5 millibars of vapor pressure. But now we're comparing it to 25 millibars of saturated vapor pressure at 70 degrees. So 5 millibars divided by 25 times 100, that gives us a relative humidity of 20%. That's pretty dry, but the colder it gets outside, the worse it gets, and it happens exponentially. Let's look at another example. Let's say it's 15 below outside. The saturation vapor pressure at 15 below is 0.7. And now we'll do the same thing. Let's keep your house at 70 degrees. So the saturation vapor pressure there is 25. So let's assume this is 100% relative humidity outside. And I'll prove that. 0.7 divided by 0.7 times 100, that gives us 100%. We're now going to bring that air inside. And now inside your home, you have 0.7 millibar vapor pressure air. That's really, really dry. Because 0.7 divided by 25 times 100, that's a relative humidity of 2.8%. Dry humidities can really cause a number on your body. It's bad for plants because they have to transpire more and you have to give them more water. They'll tend to die easier over the winter. The oil evaporates on your skin, so your skin dries out and it starts to crack. Your sinuses in your nose, you have to produce more mucus. Sometimes the mucus dries up and your nose cracks and you start to bleed. The solution then inside is to have a humidifier, a machine that will evaporate air into your environment, increasing the humidity inside. Some new boilers will evaporate up to 1 gallon per room per day. Now that costs some money, but it helps to curb some of the negative health effects from this dry air coming inside. Now, Drew Anderson actually visited 2 places in the Lancaster region that really are concerned about the relative humidity outdoors, and I'm going to let him tell you all about that.
Check out the wall right there. So we're at Jen's Pottery Den, just outside of downtown Lancaster. I came in and I went, wow, Jen's keeping it cool in here, trying to save a penny on our heating bill, $64. No wonder why I'm in a sweater. It's actually not that cold in here, but remember, cold air is dry air, and the air in here is extra dry. In fact, any guesses why? Let's see. What do you think's underneath this? Ta-da! Some clay. So, Jen, you would tell me clay, it dries out the air. How interesting is that? And even your skin, you were telling me you have what?
My poor little cracked finger.
Oh no, because the clay, when you get it in your hands, and you saw, because Jen and I we were on the pottery wheel this morning, we were spinning, which, by the way, is pretty easy. I was surprised. I was making a bowl in no time. It pulls a lot of moisture out of your skin. And your skin gives off a lot of moisture, and when that moisture gets sucked away from your skin, that's how you get chapped lips, chapped hands. Oh my gosh, now I really see it. I just thought that was actually clay in your hands. I can see it. I'm not putting your hands to shame. But
That's dry.
That's interesting. And you know what? That air in here, dry twofold, not only because the air's cooler, but because of all the clay around, the clay just really sucks the moisture. And I mean, look at this. You can tell how moist it is, that it just wants to hold on to it. And it just goes to show you things like that, like cold air, also clay, just gets the moisture out of the air, makes your hands dry, makes the air more dry, and not the best for us as humans because we want some moist air. By the way, that's the whole reason why your nose runs when it's cold. Your nose isn't running because it's cold. Cold air is super dry air, and when you breathe in, you need a certain moisture content to come down to your lungs. So your snot is not just there to be snot to be annoying, it's actually there to be moisture, so when you breathe in, you get some of that moisture going in your lungs since there's not that much water vapor in the air you're breathing. Little health fact. So check this out. We're looking at some clear toy candy. Have you ever heard of that? It's literally clear toy candy. Look how clear that is. And it's made from sugar. It's made from a couple different types of sugar. Corn syrup, regular sugar, and dextrose. Did you know that's made from corn? It's corn sugar. How cool is that? So Joe's in the house. Joe, you make this here, literally out of your basement. Yeah. And you were telling me about how the weather really affects the hard candy. Tell me what your ideal weather conditions are to make this.
Okay, ideal weather conditions is anywhere in the mid to low 50s and very dry. We want to have the humidity down to about 35% or lower, whatever we can get it to. We want to keep it cold and dry because when it's warm, the sugar is going to want to go back to the state that it started in.
So this?
Correct. This piece of sugar, this pop,
yeah.
It's nice and hard right now. It's a nice figure, nice crystal clear. But this sugar will want to go back to its original state. After maybe this particular piece in about 7 days, it's going to look like a bar of soap because it's going to want to go back to its original form.
So I understand humidity, moisture in the air will be the enemy because it'll start literally melting it, for lack of a better phrase.
Correct.
And then number two, you want it cold because if it's warm, it's going to start melting it.
Correct.
That's interesting.
A lot of people, what we try to tell them, if they get it from states like Arizona, California, we try to tell them to keep it wrapped as tight as possible and put it into the freezer, and it'll stay because there, of course, you're going to have dry and you're going to have cold.
Right.
That's what you want to have for this stuff.
Cold air is dry air. So I'm guessing you got a window to make this. You're probably not making this in the summer, are you?
No. This is only starting November. And actually, even starting in November, it's still a little humid and warm. We have to have air conditioning blowing all the time, dehumidifier. But the ideal times are going to be like December, when it's when we know it's getting to the freezing time. January, February. Those are like the ideal months for making clear toy candy.
Who knew? Making clear toy candy and making pottery all really depends on the weather conditions.